Russia has rejected the possibility of any concessions at future peace talks on the war in Ukraine. The Kremlin said that it would not compromise, denied the possibility of deploying peacekeepers in Ukraine, and rejected the possibility of a negotiated ceasefire. During a visit to the Moscow branch of the Defenders of the Fatherland Foundation on March 6, Russian ruler Vladimir Putin emphasized that Russia will not give in and intends to reach peace terms that will provide it with long-term guarantees. Putin declared 2025 the year of the Defender of the Fatherland, signaling mobilization efforts and support for the war against Ukraine. He also said that Russia will not give up its own territory in future peace talks, referring to illegally annexed Ukrainian lands. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said during a news conference that Moscow would not consider any initiatives to deploy European peacekeeping forces in Ukraine. According to him, such actions will be equated with the deployment of NATO forces, which means that Russia will consider them as direct participation of the alliance in the war. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova also emphasized that any proposals that could give Ukraine a respite on the front are unacceptable for the Kremlin. In addition, Lavrov emphasized that Russia would insist on taking into account the so-called root causes of the war, among which he named an end to NATO expansion and security guarantees for Russia. He said that former U.S. President Donald Trump allegedly understands these demands, while European countries ignore them. He said that any peace agreement must take into account the so-called root causes of the war in Ukraine, and particular guarantees that NATO would stop expanding in an attempt to absorb Ukraine and threaten Russia. Lavrov argued that U.S. President Donald Trump understands the need to address these root causes, while European countries are trying to ignore them. Literally, Russian officials often invoke the concept of root causes to hint at their demands that NATO abandon its open-door policy and blame the West and Ukraine for Putin's decision to invade Ukraine. Key findings on March 6, Russian ruler Vladimir Putin and other Kremlin officials clearly rejected any concessions in future peace talks or acceptance of any U.S., European, or Ukrainian peace proposals, and the Russian Foreign Ministry rejected the possibility of a negotiated ceasefire. Russian officials are likely to use the suspension of U.S. military assistance to Ukraine and intelligence sharing with Ukraine to spread a long-standing Russian information operation designed to falsely portray a Russian victory as inevitable. The Kremlin welcomed recent comments by a Trump administration official who mischaracterized Russia's illegal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine as a proxy war, and Russian media framed the statement as an admission that the United States is a participant in the war. U.S. and Ukrainian delegations will hold bilateral meetings in Saudi Arabia next week. Ukrainian opposition politicians have rejected the possibility of holding elections in Ukraine before the war ends. European countries continue to announce new military aid packages and other measures in support of the Ukrainian military. Ukrainian troops advanced in the Pokrovsky direction, while Russian troops advanced in the Kupiansk, Borovsky, Seversky, Pokrovsky, and Kurakovsky directions. Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin has tried to calm Russians' fears about sending conscripts to war amid persistent reports that Russian military units are forcing conscripts to sign contracts with the Russian Defense Ministry.